Who were the Midianites, and why do they appear so often throughout the pages of the Bible? Were they enemies of Israel, or were they desert traders and wandering tribes? Perhaps they were something far more complex. How did one people become so intricately connected to the lives of Moses and Gideon? And how did their story move from kinship to betrayal and from war to divine judgment across many generations? To understand the Midianites is to explore a shadow history of Israel itself. They were a people born of the same patriarch, but destined for a different path. Their presence is felt from the sands of the Sinai to the lush valleys of the Promised Land. And their legacy remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between blessing and curse. The origins of the Midianites trace back to the twilight years of Abraham. After the death of Sarah, the great patriarch took another wife named Keturah. Among the sons born to this union was a man named Midian. While Isaac was the son of the promise and the heir to the covenant, Midian and his brothers were given gifts and sent eastward into the desert lands. They settled in a region known as Midian, which primarily spanned the rugged northwestern Arabian Peninsula along the eastern shore of the Gulf of Aqaba. This was a land of harsh beauty and unforgiving terrain, and it shaped the Midianites into a resilient and nomadic people. They were masters of the desert, controlling the vital trade routes that transported frankincense and spices from the south to the empires of the north. We first see the Midianites interact with a direct line of the covenant and a moment of cold opportunism. When the sons of Jacob plotted to kill their brother Joseph, it was a caravan of Midianite traders who happened upon the scene. These merchants purchased the young Joseph for 20 pieces of silver and carried him down into the markets of Egypt. In this early encounter, the Midianites appear as detached businessmen indifferent to the family drama of the Israelites. Yet they became the unintentional instruments of divine providence. By their hands, Joseph was positioned in Egypt to eventually save his entire family from famine. It is a recurring theme in the biblical narrative where the actions of the Midianites often serve as a catalyst for the next great movement of God. Centuries later, the relationship between Israel and Midian took a profound and personal turn through the life of Moses. After fleeing the wrath of Pharaoh for killing an Egyptian, Moses found refuge in the heart of Midianite territory. It was there at a desert well that he met the daughters of Jethro, also known as Reuel, who was a priest of Midian. Moses was welcomed into their tents and lived among them for 40 years. He married Jethro's daughter Zipporah and worked as a shepherd in the wilderness. It was on Midianite ground near the base of Mount Horeb that God appeared to Moses in the burning bush. This was a season of peace and mentorship. Jethro was not an enemy but a wise counselor who later visited the Israelite camp in the wilderness and provided Moses with the foundational structure for judicial leadership. At this point in history, the Midianites and Israelites were brothers in more than just blood. They were allies under the shadow of the Almighty. However, as the Israelites neared the end of their wilderness wanderings, the spirit of brotherhood began to wither. The Midianites grew fearful of the massive host of Israel, moving toward the Promised Land. This fear led to a dark conspiracy with the king of Moab. When the prophet Balaam found himself unable to curse Israel by divine command, he suggested a more subtle and devastating tactic. He advised the Midianites to use their women to seduce the Israelite men into idolatry and sexual immorality. The plan worked with terrifying efficiency. At a place called Baal Peor, the men of Israel were lured into the worship of local gods, triggering a divine plague that claimed 24,000 lives. This act of spiritual sabotage turned the Midianites into a sworn enemy, and the bond of kinship was shattered by the stain of apostasy. The hostility reached its peak during the era of the Judges. For 7 years, the Midianites, together with the Amalekites and other eastern tribes, became a recurring scourge upon the land of Israel. They did not seek to conquer cities, but to starve the people. Like locusts, they would sweep across the land during harvest time, destroying crops and stealing livestock until the Israelites were forced to hide in caves and mountain strongholds. It was a time of deep national despair and spiritual darkness. It was out of this oppression that God raised up Gideon. When the angel of the Lord found him, he was threshing wheat in a hidden winepress to keep it from the Midianites. Gideon was a man of doubt, but God called him a mighty warrior and commanded him to tear down the altars of Baal and lead an army against the vast Midianite host. The climax of the Midianite story is one of the most cinematic and miraculous battles in history. Gideon gathered thousands of men, but God thinned the ranks until only 300 remained. These men did not carry heavy armor or siege engines. In the dead of night, they surrounded the Midianite camp, armed only with trumpets and jars containing hidden torches. At Gideon's signal, they broke the jars and blew the trumpets, crying out for the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. The sudden explosion of light and sound threw the Midianite camp into a state of total panic. In the chaos, the Midianites turned their swords against one another, fleeing in a disorganized rout. This decisive victory broke the Midianite power forever, and their name eventually faded into the sands of history. The story of the Midianites is a rich tapestry that offers profound spiritual lessons for us today. It is a narrative about the dangers of spiritual compromise and the reality that proximity to the truth does not guarantee a heart of faith. The Midianites were descendants of Abraham, yet they became a stumbling block because they chose the gods of the world over the God of their father. Their history also serves as a testament to God's power to deliver his people from overwhelming odds when they return to him in repentance. From the wisdom of Jethro to the terror of the midnight battle with Gideon, the Midianites remind us that every generation must choose whether to be a bridge or a barrier to the purposes of God. Thank you for joining us on this historical journey. If you want to explore deeper into the hidden stories of the Bible, please subscribe to Bible Stories and Insight for more.